Summer 2023 was the hottest on record, scientists say. July 2023 marks the hottest month ever recorded. August, second hottest month ever recorded. Well, what's the fire triangle? Heat, fuel, oxygen, fire, right? So let's talk about heat. This comes from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It's called Wildfire Climate Connection. Climate change, including increased heat, extended drought, and a thirsty atmosphere, has been a key driver in increasing the risk of wildfires and their extent in the western United States during the last 2 decades. Wildfires require the alignment of a number of factors, including temperature, humidity, and the lack of moisture in fuels such as trees, shrubs, grasses, and forest debris. All these factors have strong direct or indirect ties to climate variability and climate change. Earth has just had its hottest summer on record, UN says, warning climate catastrophe. This was 4 hours ago that article was put out. Summer of 2023, the hottest ever, scientists say. Stop saying that the fires were started by space lasers. Stop saying that the fires all started at the same time. That didn't happen. I was there. I seen the fires. They didn't all start at the same time. A 2016 study found climate change enhanced the drying of organic matter and doubled the number of large fires between 1984 and 2015 in the western United States. In 2021, a study supported by NOAA concluded that climate change has been the main driver of the increase in fire weather in the western United States. You know what happens is that fire responds to hot weather. When you get temperatures over 30 degrees Celsius and humidity below 30%, especially, fires stand up, add some wind, they go for a run, right? So a lot of times there's fires hanging out, they're dormant, and no one knows they're there. They're just kind of creeping around the ground, and suddenly it gets hot, and then it gets dry, and then it gets windy, and the fire stands up, and it seems like they all stand up at the same time, but they didn't all start at the same time. They just became active because they responded to weather conditions. Drought and persistent heat set the stage for extraordinary wildfire seasons from 2020 to 2022 across many western states, with all 3 years far surpassing the average 1.2 million acres burned since 2016. Extreme fire behavior during this period shocked many wildfire managers as several huge blazes burned for months. Others incinerated entire communities, and others still erupted during nighttime wind events. In the Sierras of California and the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, flame fronts threw embers over the crests of mountain divides, across miles of rocky and flammable terrain. One more behavior never before observed by wildfire managers. Research shows that changes in climate create warmer, drier conditions, leading to longer and more active fire seasons. Increases in temperature and the thirst of the atmosphere due to human-caused climate change have increased aridity of forest fuels during the fire season. These drivers were found to be responsible for over half the observed decrease in the moisture content of fuels in western U.S. forests from 1979 to 2015, and the doubling of forest fire burned area over the period of 1984 to 2015. For much of the U.S. West, projections show that an average annual 1 degree Celsius temperature increase would increase the median burned area per year by as much as 600%, in some types of forests at least. In the southeastern United States, modeling suggests increased fire risk and a longer fire season, with at least 30% increase from 2011 in the area burned by lightning-ignited wildfires by the year 2060. The relationship between fire and weather is clear. You know the relationship between fire and heat. The Chemainus Valley Courier. This article. Earth has sweltered through its hottest northern hemisphere summer ever measured, with a record warm August capping a season of brutal and deadly temperatures. Last month was not only the hottest August scientists ever recorded by far with modern equipment, it was also the second hottest month measured behind July 2023. Copernicus Climate Change Service. Summer 2023, the hottest on record. The problem is if you don't want to admit that climate change is happening, and if you don't want to admit that our forests have been managed poorly and set up in a way to burn, then you're going to want to blame everybody to deflect attention away from the reality, right? So when I hear people who are blaming the government for fires that are happening right now, what I'm hearing is people who don't want to admit that fire seasons are going to be worse and worse and worse. And the problem is when a large part of the voting public is against the reality we're facing, it makes it really hard for governments to want to implement things that might help us deal with the situation at hand. It prevents governments from spending money on strategies that would have us more ready. August was 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than pre-industrial averages. That is the threshold the world is trying not to pass, though scientists are more concerned about rises in temperatures over decades, not merely a blip over months' time. The world's oceans, more than 70% of the Earth's surface, were the hottest ever recorded, nearly 21 Celsius, and have set high temperature marks for 3 consecutive months, the WMO and Copernicus said. It definitely means that things are changing and old ways have to be left behind. It means we have to adapt to the situation at hand and realize that this isn't going to go away. It's probably going to get worse. And that means we have to prepare communities and prepare ourselves, prepare our minds, prepare our properties for this reality and change some of the things we're doing. Change the way and the purpose that we log for, and prepare our forests to be more fire resistant. It means change our budget for firefighting. It means change our community preparedness, have plans really in place, everyone be ready. It means change what you think is normal. It means when something's happening, don't be complacent in the future. Recognize the risk that you're in. It means changing a lot of things about how our civilization is put together, what the purpose of life is, what the meaning of it is. We just had this 10,000 year window of stability with which we built civilization on. 10,000 years where the weather and the climate kind of worked together, and it worked to our benefit. And we may be coming to an end of that epoch. I'm not saying it's going to be uninhabitable. I'm not saying that this is completely unnatural or that it was completely unavoidable. Maybe we sped it up with human-led climate change, but I think the reality is that this warming was probably going to happen at some point, and we would have had to deal with it. The dog days of summer are not just barking, they are biting. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said in a statement, "Climate breakdown has begun." So this is the new climate reality. Fire is part of the new reality. I'm not trying to scare you, and I'm not trying to say, told you so. Boo! Told you so. Scientists blame ever-warming human-caused climate change from the burning of coal, oil, and natural gas with an extra push from an El Nino, which is a temporary warming of the parts of the Pacific Ocean that changes weather worldwide. Usually an El Nino, which started this year earlier, adds extra heat to global temperatures, but more so in its second year. So the worst is yet to come. Climatologist Andrew Weaver said the numbers announced by WMO and Copernicus comes as no surprise, bemoaning how governments have not appeared to take the issue of global warming seriously enough. He expressed concern that the public will just forget the issue when temperatures fall again. It's time for global leaders to start telling the truth, said Weaver. He's a professor at the School of Earth and Ocean Scientists at the University of Victoria here in Canada. We will not limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. We will not limit warming to 2 Celsius. It's all hands on deck now to prevent 3 degrees global warming, a level of warming that will wreak havoc worldwide. The reality is that BC is undergoing significant ecological change, and one of the ways this change will manifest itself is through fire. So as the province gets more and more hot weather over the years, we'll see ecological change in the desert-like areas and grassland areas expanding further as places burn off. They may not experience growth again of the trees they once had. Copernicus, a division of European Union space program, has records going back to 1940, but United Kingdom and the United States, global records go back to mid-1800s, and those weather and science agencies are expected to soon report the summer was a record breaker. What we are observing, not only new extremes, but persistence of these record-breaking conditions and the impacts these are having on people and the planet. It's a clear consequence of the warming of the climate systems. Director Carlo Buontempo says at the Copernicus Climate Change Service. Or you'll have, say, mountain areas that once they have significant fire activity, have different forest type that regrows when the regrowth starts again, right? So BC is undergoing significant ecological change. The more hot weather it sees, the more thunderstorms it gets, the more this change manifests itself. And we're seeing that. So don't be surprised at significant fire seasons ahead, especially if we have an El Nino ahead. Al Jazeera, 2023 marks the hottest on record. And I'm not convinced there's anything we can do to reverse the climate change that we're about to see. That's the thing, that people are denying that it's happening. That's frustrating. We may be at the end of the ice age, as it's, we're still technically in an ice age, and you look at how much glaciation is on at the caps, right? Well, we may see rapid warming that ends that ice age. And as the stores of carbon and methane release themselves, we'll see rapid warming. I don't think there's anything we can do at this point to actually stop that. So you need to grasp the reality of the change is happening, and what's that going to look like for a place like British Columbia. And then understand that fire is going to be a principal driver of how that change manifests itself. It's not space lasers starting the fires. Stop saying that. AP News. This summer's been the hottest on record. 23 hours ago, NASA clocks 2023 July as the hottest month ever recorded. So we're starting to see wider and wider extremes of what the weather can do and what is normal. And that's not going away. So as the planet keeps heating up, as this rapid warming continues for the next dozens and dozens and dozens of years, probably, we're going to see a lot of change ecologically, and we're going to have a lot of climate-driven catastrophes that we're going to have to face as communities. This is the new reality. So stop pretending that it isn't. Stop blaming it on the government, in the sense that, stop blaming it on saying, well, it's the bosses at Wildfire, they don't care, or they're just trying to keep the fires going, or, stop saying we're not trying, because everyone who fights fire is trying, and what we're up against is something that's completely new and different, and is going to get worse. Time magazine one day ago. So far, 2023 is the second hottest year on record behind 2016. The Northern Hemisphere just had its hottest summer ever recorded. Scientists blame ever-warming human-caused climate change. Stop saying it was the space lasers. There's no such thing, I think. August was the hottest month on record by a large margin and the second hottest month ever, after July 2023, according to the World Meteorological Association. That was in USA Today. It can't be now that every time we have some significant emergency, some significant challenge that we have to face, that a significant portion of the public is like, this is not happening. It's not real. Scientists have used tree rings, ice cores, and other proxies to estimate that temperatures are now warmer than they've been for about 120,000 years. The world has been warmer before, but that was prior to human civilization. Seas were much higher and the poles were not icy. So far, daily temperatures are higher than what has been recorded before this time of year, according to the University of Maine's Climate Reanalyzer. While the world's air and oceans were setting records for heat, Antarctica continues to set records for low amounts of sea ice. Freedom! Antarctic sea ice extent was literally off the charts, and the global sea surface temperature was once again at a new record, says the World Meteorological Association Secretary General Petteri Talas. It is worth noting that this is happening before we see the full warming impacts of this coming El Nino event, which typically plays out in the second year after it develops. Stop saying it was the space lasers! A strong El Nino coincided with all-time high temperatures in 2016. Says The Guardian, smashed. 2023, the hottest ever recorded. There's a 98% chance of breaking the record of 2016 between now and 2027 for the hottest year ever. The new readings on global temperatures come as the World Meteorological Association announced Wednesday its latest bulletin on air quality and climate, noting that extreme heat compounded by wildfires and desert dust has had measurable impact on air quality, human health, and the environment. World Meteorological Office scientific advisor Lorenzo Labrador lamented the deteriorating air quality around the globe and cited record-breaking wildfire season in many parts of the world, including Western Canada and Europe. If a heat wave increases as a result of El Nino, we may probably expect further degradation in air quality as a whole. The highest marine temperature, 38.3 Celsius, was recorded near the Florida coast on July 24th. That was in Le Monde, France, Environment, Climate Change, Live Science. What does this say? This was the hottest summer ever recorded on Earth 5 hours ago. World Meteorological Association 2 days ago said Earth had the hottest 3-month period on record. Pierre, this guy from the shoe shop, as a way of thanking me for my weather reports that people said really helped them during the crisis, sent me Shoe Shop Strong hat, Shoe Shop Strong shirt. It's pretty sweet. Check out the back. Super cool. You can find them online. You can find them at the mall there in Salmon Arm. And all the proceeds go to helping people who've been evacuated and things like that. So super cool shirt. Get in on it. And thanks very much, Pierre, for sending it to me.